and good evening, everybody, and it is great to be back, and I am sure you have been wondering, where have I been the past 2 weeks? Well, the answer is really quite simple. I have been sick. I have had a flu, and it was really, really terrible. Just time travel back a week or so, and I'm talking like this. It was absolutely horrible. But I am glad I have my voice back. I am glad I do not have the chills anymore. And I am glad to be back here once and for all with Album Rant. And I thought that tonight I would do my very first episode about a band called Def Leppard. Yes, British hard rock glam metal band who you all know from such hits such as Pour Some Sugar on Me, Love Bites, Hysteria, Rocket, Armageddon It, Let's Get Rocked. Have you ever needed someone so bad? Well, the thing is this. Long before those hits came out, they were a very, very different kind of band. They were actually part of the new wave of British heavy metal alongside bands such as Saxon, Samson, and Iron Maiden. Yes, I did just say that, okay? And I intend to justify that assertion over the next couple of minutes or so. But anyways, the roots of Def Leppard began in the year 1976, and there was a not very well-known band called Atomic Mass. And it included bass player Rick Savage, who was later joined by Pete Willis and some other people by the year 1977. Well, they eventually came into contact again in 1977 with a kid by the name of Joe Elliot. He was only 18 at the time, so let that sink in. But he tried out after he coincidentally met Pete Willis after missing a bus of all things. But, chain of events started, which led to something really phenomenal. And he initially tried out for the guitarist position, but he was later convinced to take the lead singer position. So there's that. Well, he eventually said or proposed the idea that they should change the name of the band from Atomic Mass to Def Leppard. Spelled differently, it was DEAFLOLEOPAERD. But the spelling was changed eventually by someone. It was someone's idea, I don't really know, but anyways, this right here is the spelling of the band. So there's that. Then they were later joined by Steve Clark in the year 1978, and they eventually released an EP entitled the Def Leppard EP. And it included 3 songs: Overture, Ride Into the Sun, and Get Your Rocks Off, which did receive some radio play, so they did kind of have one foot in the door by that point. But, again, that EP was very, very underproduced. It had a very raw sound to it. It was a little too underproduced for my taste, but I have tried to find it on vinyl. Excuse me. I have tried to find it on vinyl on eBay, but unfortunately it costs hundreds of dollars, which I am not willing to fork over. I have heard it, however. Then in the year 1979, they were joined by drummer Rick Allen. He had 2 arms at the time, so let me just get that straight. And a few other members came and left, but by the year 1980, they had their first classic lineup of Joe Elliot on lead vocals, Pete Willis on lead guitar, Steve Clark on lead guitar, Rick Savage on the bass, and Rick Allen on the drums. And apparently, the EP that they put out did attract the attention of producer Tom Allom. Where do I know that name from? I know that name from, that's right. He is the longtime producer for classic, legendary, heavy metal artist Judas Priest. So yes, they sounded a lot more like Judas Priest at the time than they did what they are most well known for today. And I think that is pretty incredible. But in the year 1980, and boy, that was a heck of a year, they put out their very first actual album, and that brings me to the subject of tonight's review, On Through the Night, which is the very first legitimate Def Leppard album. And I just told you who the lineup is, so let's see what we have here on the back. By the way, cover art, yeah, it's pretty creative. Nothing really special, but, you know, I've seen worse. So, there's a picture of the band right there, and yeah, these guys are young. Rick Allen was only 15 when he joined the band. He was a kid. So was Joe Elliot, so it's pretty phenomenal that, you know, a couple of kids rocked as well as they did. But let's go ahead and look over here. We come to side A. And the very first song on side A is the Rock Brigade. And it comes out swinging. I'm not sure if I would call it a fast song or a slow song. It's kind of in the middle, actually. It's kind of weird. But boy, it does kick things off very well. We have no polished guitars on here. We have no glammy, sappy, girly production on this. This is full-fledged rock, maybe even being considered metal. I actually would consider this metal, and many at the time did. But Rock Brigade is a great song, okay? It's got a very, very swinging beat to it, and boy, it is hard, and boy, it is heavy. I am a huge fan of Rock Brigade. Funny story. The very first Def Leppard album I ever heard was Pyromania, and I enjoyed it. Then I picked up a Greatest Hits, and as you can imagine, it was mostly dominated by the Hysteria material. And I was like, I'm not really feeling this. But I decided to give it one more go, and I picked up On Through the Night. And obviously, Rock Brigade is the very first song I ever heard, and ever since I heard it, I was hooked. I was like, yes, I love Def Leppard. Then we come to Hello America, which I'm not going to bother singing it because my voice still isn't fully back, but it's good enough. But it's got a definite Beach Boys feel to it. It's kind of like the Beach Boys meet heavy metal, and this thing is fast. This thing is swinging, and I love it. Hello, America! Hello, America! Love it. And this was released as a single, and I think that was a great decision. We then come to Sorrow is a Woman. And it starts out pretty hard and pretty fast-hitting, but it gets kind of soft during the verse. And I wouldn't call it a ballad, but it's definitely soft. But when when the chorus picks up, the band starts kicking in, and it definitely starts rocking after that. Now, decades ago, I was on a message board, and I referred to Def Leppard as heavy metal. Actually, I referred to On Through the Night as heavy metal. And someone said, do you seriously think Sorrow is a Woman is heavy metal? Well, heavy metal artists sometimes change things up a bit, okay? Metallica released Fade to Black on Ride the Lightning. That had some soft parts to it. That is still a thrash metal album, so yes, I do still consider this heavy metal. But Sorrow is a Woman is definitely a lot different from everything else that is on this side, and the fact that it's got a very haunting, ballady feel to it, and I love it. We then come to It Could Be You, and this thing picks things right back up. It's very short. I think it's only about 2 minutes or so, 2 minutes and change, but it rocks. It is fast, and it's got a very stonery feel to it, if that makes sense to it. It makes sense at all, but it's kind of crazy, and I love it. That's what I like about it. It's got almost a psychedelic feel to it, and I just really appreciate that. I really appreciate the darkness. Satellite is probably the most disposable song on side 1. It's still good and everything, but it doesn't really have much that stands out to me. It's pretty by the books, pretty by the numbers, but I still think it rocks. It's still, like I said, like the other tracks, it has that raw metallic feel to it, and I love it. But then we come to When the Walls Came Tumbling Down, and it starts out slow and gloomy, and then I'm not sure who actually does this, but someone comes in, and it's almost like he's narrating a story. This may tell a story. I do not actually know what it is. So if you do know, please correct me in the comments section. Please inform me in the comments section. I am curious. All I know is When the Walls Came Tumbling Down is freaking awesome. Okay? Like I said, it's got that very soft but doomy feel to it, and it starts picking up, and it's got this explosive crescendo that I just cannot get enough of. When the Walls Came Tumbling Down is almost like prog metal, if that makes any sense at all. Excuse me. But anyways, having said all that, I love everything on side A. But if I had to pick a favorite, it is such a hard decision. It's probably going to be either Hello America or It Could Be You. Today, I'm going with It Could Be You. Tomorrow, I may feel differently, but right now, that is what I am going to say. So that was side A, and it rocks. Now we move over to side B, and it kicks off with Wasted, which, as you can probably imagine just from the title, it's got a very stonery feel to it, and it does, and it's awesome. It's a little bit slower. It's got a and I'm sure I did that incorrectly, and I do not care, but listen to the song, okay? It is an absolute classic. It is absolutely awesome. The lyrics, the subject matter, it's not, oh baby, I love you so much kind of lyrics. This is about getting trashed. This is about getting wasted. And one of the lines is, I wish I was dead. That is not something you would hear in their mainstream material, but it works so well here. Easily one of the greatest Def Leppard songs out there. I did do a Def Leppard song tournament many months ago, and Wasted was on there, and it made it pretty far. One of my all-time favorite Def Leppard songs. Now, the next 3, unfortunately, are pretty standard. They are definitely probably the weakest kind of string or series of songs on this album. We have Rocks Off, which was retitled from Get Your Rocks Off from the EP. Obviously, it's been re-recorded. It's now more produced than the kind of demo-ish version that was on the EP, and I think it sounds very good. But again, it doesn't have the punch that some of these other songs do. Neither does It Don't Matter. I still love It Don't Matter, but it's just, again, very standard, very by the books, and again, doesn't leave much of an impression. But then we have Answer to the Master, which I also really love. But compared to the brilliance of the rest of this album, it kind of falls through the crack. And that is a shame. But the thing is this. They could have edited this thing down to maybe 8 songs or so, and it would have maybe been a little bit more concise, but there was room on the record, obviously, and I'm glad they put them on here. I'm glad I got a chance to hear them. But here's the thing. There is a song that was recorded during these sessions. It was included as a B-side to the Wasted single. It's called Good Morning Freedom. Very unknown Def Leppard song. I think it probably could have replaced any one of these three, but it's okay. You can still hear it on YouTube. If you get the Wasted single, you can hear it as a B-side, and I'm satisfied with that. But it ends with track 5, 11 overall, called Overture. This is another song that was on the original EP. It's been re-recorded, obviously, and it's incredible. This is prog rock or prog metal. It's got multi-sections to it. It's not your typical verse, chorus song. This thing starts slow, very melodic, and then it takes you through all of these different sections, all of these different movements, and I absolutely love it. And boy, I really, really wish that Def Leppard had continued making and recording music like this, because this record is awesome. Excuse me. Cough is not fully gone yet, but I'm hanging in there. And as I was saying, this record is absolutely incredible. It's a sign of something that could have been. Don't get me wrong. After this, they did put out some good records. I love High and Dry. I love Pyromania. I can appreciate parts of Hysteria, okay? But this is really where it's at. This is their best material in my opinion, and I absolutely do recommend this record. For side B, if I had to pick a favorite, it's probably Wasted. But Overture is a very, very, very worthy contender. These are all great songs. Some are great, some are really great. And I really do think you have to check this album out because it has very much fallen through the cracks. It has very much been forgotten by the mainstream, and I really think it needs to make a comeback. Unfortunately, I have seen these guys many times in concert, and they have never once played anything from On Through the Night. It is such a shame. They will play stuff from High and Dry. They will play stuff from Pyromania. Of course they're going to play stuff from Hysteria. They'll even play stuff from Adrenalize. But they just will not touch this one. And I'm like, guys, you're too hard on yourself. This album is a beast. This album succeeds, and this album, if I were giving it a grade, would get an A+. As I said, they were one of the main pioneers of the new wave of British heavy metal, and it's a shame they did not stay on that path. But that is going to conclude my review of Def Leppard and my review of On Through the Night. And so, again, I praise this a lot. I really think it's an essential to anyone who is into this genre, so please go check it out. Now, guys, I want to be back next week. I truly do. But I'm a little bit paranoid that my cough and my flu are going to come back, so we're just going to have to see what happens. But until then, have a very pleasant evening.